Last week, I went over my top 10 favorite parks from my trip to Europe this year. In that video, I said that I would do a sequel video going over my favorite coasters from that trip. So here we are. I rode 125 individual coasters on my trip, ranging from some of the best coasters that I've ever ridden to some coasters that made me question my life choices. With 125 coasters to look at, I felt doing a top 10 list wouldn't be quite enough to cover some of the coasters that I really felt needed to be spotlighted. So I'll make this a top 15 list and throw in some honorable mentions that didn't quite make it onto the list. So let's get to it. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and drop a like on the video too. I'm on a time crunch for editing this video, so I don't have time to make a little skit about the YouTube algorithm. Just do me a solid, drop a sub. For my honorable mentions, these aren't in any particular order. I felt these coasters just needed a mention of some type as highlights from my trip. Wiener Looping and Olympia Looping at Wiener Prater. Wiener Looping is a new for 2025 Mach Big Dipper coaster. Small, compact, punchy, and a perfect fit for this small plot of land and for its park. Olympia Looping has been a bucket list coaster for me most of my life. While it wasn't quite in my top 15 list, it was still super fun and pulled some solid forces on those loops. Rutscherbahn at Tivoli Gardens was my very first coaster of the trip, and my very first coaster ever in Europe. This over 100-year-old coaster was definitely a great coaster to start off the trip. Rutscherbahn has a brakeman that controls the speed of the ride. My first ride on it, the brakeman did hit the brakes a little bit, but my second ride, the brakeman didn't touch the brakes at all, and it made for an absolutely insane ride. This coaster is also butter smooth, smoother than most wooden coasters that are a fraction of its age. Phoenix at Toverland. This B&M wing coaster makes great use of its surroundings and is a visually stunning centerpiece for the Avalon area of the park. It's on the shorter side. This could have possibly been my favorite wing coaster if it was a little bit longer. Black Mamba at Phantasialand. I only got one ride on this coaster in the front row, but it was a damn good ride with impeccable theming and immersiveness. This probably could have made it onto my top 15 list if I had gotten more rides on it, and would have gotten a better feel for the ride. So for now, it'll stay as an honorable mention. Euromir and Blue Flyer at Europa Park. Blue Flyer was simply fun. I had more fun on this coaster than I do on most standard B&M looping coasters, which are quite more common in the United States. Euromir was just silly, but I loved it. Super quirky layout, a little bit janky, but I was laughing uncontrollably on this ride. I almost put it as my number 15 spot on this list, but I couldn't quite bring myself to do it. Number 15, Helios at Phantasiana. This new for 2025 Mach Big Dipper coaster is sort of advertised as a family-friendly coaster. Some could argue that, including myself. This borders a family thrill coaster to simply a thrill coaster. Phantasiana is definitely a park that is targeted towards younger families and kids, with only one other small coaster in that park. Helios was a lot more fun than I was expecting it to be. Nothing mind-blowing, but still exceeding my expectations. Smooth, great pacing, nice pops of airtime, awesome hang time, and cute theming. It's incredible that Mach could make this coaster fit in such a small plot of land. If you're ever traveling in Austria, definitely make some time to stop by this cute park. Number 14, Tornado at Bakken. This Intamin spinning coaster is by far the most intense spinning coaster that I've ever been on, especially on that first drop. While standing at only 40 feet, the whip and the forces that it pulls makes me wonder how this is even legal. And that was in standard mode. I did get one ride in boost mode, and that was possibly the most that I've ever fought for my life on a coaster. I learned that in order to get boost mode on this ride, there has to be nobody else in line after you, and you just have to ask the ride op. If you have the opportunity, give it a try, but prepare for one of the most insane coaster experiences of your life. Don't be fooled by this coaster's small size and footprint. This ride will punch you in the face if you're not bracing properly for it. Number 13, Troy at Toverland. This GCI wooden coaster often gets high praise from many coaster enthusiasts, and it absolutely lives up to the hype. While the theming may not be the greatest on it, it makes up for that with an amazing layout and great pacing. It's not the smoothest wooden coaster, but I feel like that added to the intensity and out of control feeling. As of now, this is my second favorite GCI coaster, just behind Thunderhead at Dollywood. Number 12, Hals über Kopf at Olympus Park Tripsdrill. This Vekoma suspended thrill coaster is the most re-rideable and smoothest inverted coaster that I've ever been on. I wouldn't say that it's a very high thrill coaster, but it's just incredibly fun, smooth, and has many cool interactions with the pathways and the rides around it. There were a few surprising moments of positive G's, like on that first overbank turn, and some of the valleys towards the end of the ride. The theming is also very well done for this ride. I was not expecting this to be my favorite ride in the park, but I could not get enough of this coaster. Number 11, Piraten at Dure Summerland. This rare intimate mega-light coaster is the only one of its kind on this side of the world, with the rest of them being in Asia. Standing at just over 100 feet, this coaster packs a great punch, offering floater airtime, flowjector, and awesome lateral airtime, along with nice pacing. And for its age, it's also very smooth. I didn't notice any rattle on it whatsoever. I could ride this coaster all day and not get bored of it. This was also the very last coaster of my trip. Number 10. Untamed at Walibi Holland. This coaster seems to be somewhat polarized among coaster enthusiasts. I've heard many say that this is a weaker RMC, and many say that this is one of the best mid-sized RMCs. I have to agree that it is one of the best mid-sized RMCs. I really loved the diversity of elements on this ride. It has a few typical RMC moments, but also a few unique elements, like the double inverting stall and the overbank inversion. It was running very good on the day I was there. It was rainy, but still warm, which I feel is the best combination for most RMCs. Wet RMC track seems to make them run so much faster. Untamed is definitely the star of the show for Walibi Holland. Number 9. Colossus Kampf der Giganten at Heidi Park. The original Intamin prefabricated wooden coaster was much better than I was expecting it to be. I've heard many enthusiasts talk down on this coaster for not being as good as El Toro, which is definitely true, and that it has not run as good since its recent refurbishment. Despite that, I still thought this was a fantastic coaster. The first half is amazing with the camelbacks. The middle section of the park is definitely the weakest part of the ride. The pacing kinda dies, and the ride doesn't pull many forces, especially on the helix. But the airtime hills at the end definitely make for a solid finale on this coaster. The monster is also an awesome theming element. Don't compare this coaster to El Toro or other Intamin prefabs. Just enjoy it for what it is and the strong moments that it does have. Number 8. Phonics at Faroop Sommerland. I said it in my top 10 parks video, and I'll say it again. This is the smoothest coaster that I've ever ridden. Vekoma delivered a gem with this coaster. The pacing is great, solid airtime, and a neat station flyby inversion. Phonics is by no means my favorite coaster of all time, but for what it does, it's nearly a perfect coaster, and executes what it does perfectly. I really hope to get coasters like this in the United States. Number 7. Terran at Phantasialand. This is one of the most immersive coasters in the world, along with another amazing coaster at the same park. We'll talk about that one in a bit. On my first ride, Terran felt more like a family thrill coaster, more so than a high thrill coaster, but it still gave an absolutely incredible ride. I will say that this ride does rely on its immersive setting a little bit. However, if this coaster was plopped in a flat field, I'd still have a blast on it. My first ride on it was a morning ride, and I was a little bit underwhelmed by it. But my second ride was later in the afternoon, and the ride was running much faster. Terran is absolutely a world-class coaster. Number 6. Sprudekärnen at Hansa Park. This is by far the crown jewel coaster for Gerstlauer. One of the most unique beginnings for a coaster. Spoiler alert, this coaster has an enclosed vertical lift. When you're almost at the top of the hill, the train stops, then falls backwards to the bottom of the lift hill. For anybody riding this coaster that does not know that it does this, I imagine this is a terrifying moment, especially being enclosed in the dark. I want to know the engineering and mechanisms that make this possible. If anybody knows, let me know in the comments. After dropping down the vertical lift, you go back up and finally crest the hill. The first drop in the back row is absolutely incredible. The rest of the layout is a very unconventional layout for a Gerstlauer Infinity coaster. The massive non-inverting structure is visually intimidating. Doesn't pull much with forces though. After that, the coaster stays pretty low to the ground, maximizing the speed from the 219-foot drop. I said this in my vlog from that day. It sort of feels like a Giga Coaster layout, staying closer to the ground with some moments of airtime, but keeping its speed seemed to be its focus. While it's a super fun and unique coaster, I can't deny that it's not the smoothest coaster. But once you learn to ride it and brace for certain parts of the ride becomes much more re-rideable. Another spoiler alert. I'm not a fan of how you load into the station. You enter a room with 4 separate rows, and then the ride randomly selects who goes into which row. There's no way to choose your row on this ride. While it makes for a cool storytelling element, I can't say I like this. I never got a front row ride because of this. Despite that, this is a fantastic ride and is easily the highlight of Hansa Park. Number 5. Expedition G-Force at Plopsaland Deutschland. I won't lie, I went into this intimate mega coaster somewhat skeptical of the high praise that it gets. Sure, it looks good, but I wasn't convinced that it would be among my favorite coasters of the trip. I am so happy that I was proven wrong immediately. This coaster is a powerhouse. Incredibly strong moments of airtime, solid moments of positive Gs, a few head choppers, and very smooth. The drop in the back row is one of my favorite drops on any coaster. Something about the profiling on that drop just doesn't feel right, and I'm glad that it's like that. The whip in the back row is absolutely insane. I was expecting only to get 3 to 4 rides in this coaster, since I only had a few hours at that park. I ended up getting 8 rides. Also, I only got morning rides on this coaster. I can't imagine how good this coaster runs later in the day when it's warmed up. This coaster is a must-do if you're traveling in Germany. Number 4. Conda at Wallaby, Belgium. Conda is pretty much a modern version of Expedition G-Force, hence why they are both next to each other on this list. This coaster is intimate telling the world, yeah, we got this model perfected, and that they do. The pacing on this coaster is perfect, not a dull moment or any filler moments. It's butter smooth, amazing airtime, and solid lateral forces. I'm usually not a big fan of small bunny hop hills like Conda does for its finale, but these were the first ones that I really enjoyed. I would still rather see 1 or 2 speed hills over multiple bunny hills, but Conda executes these great. Conda is undoubtedly an elite coaster that alone makes Wallaby, Belgium worth visiting. Number 3. Fly at Phantasialand. There really is no other coaster like this in the world. This one-of-a-kind Vekoma flying coaster is one of, if not the most immersive coaster in the world. Flying through the Rookburg area of the park on this coaster was one of the most surreal coaster experiences that I've ever had. I was only able to get 1 ride on it, but that 1 ride is an experience that I will never forget. There was one moment on the coaster where I thought to myself, is this my number 1 coaster of all time? But once I got off the ride, I was like, okay, calm down, Ryan. It's good, but not quite that good. I'm not sure where this lands in my overall rankings, top 10 for sure. While this may not be my number 1 overall coaster, this may be my favorite experience overall on a coaster. Number 2. Ride to Happiness at Plopsalandepana. I would never understand why this coaster exists at this park. Plopsalandepana is targeted towards kids and younger families, yet they have one of the most incredible coasters in the world. This Mach Extreme Spinner was everything that I wanted it to be, and more. The JoJo roll out of the station while spinning is a perfect way to start off the ride. The first launch is very punchy, especially for a Mach launch. Dropping off the top hat backwards in the back row is one of the most violent moments of airtime that I've ever felt. The rest of the layout before the second launch is pretty solid. It was cool how it interacts with a nearby water ride. I had a few rides on it with some cool interactions with that. The second launch has a bunny hill that gives some incredibly strong airtime. Then there's the Flying Snake Dive. Going through this inversion sideways is my favorite inversion in the world. Going forward or backwards through this is pretty cool, but sideways, it throws you violently out of your seat. The soundtrack is also a banger too, being themed to Tomorrowland, a huge EDM festival that's held in Belgium every year. The spinning doesn't seem to be controlled in this coaster, so you're going to get a different ride every time. I wanted to put Ride to Happiness in my number 1 spot for this list, but this last coaster just has a little bit more of what I look for in a complete coaster. Number 1. Voltron Rivera at Europa Park. This is by far the most complete coaster that I've ever ridden, pulling nearly every force that a coaster can pull, throwing in some unique elements and amazing theming. I sort of knew that this coaster was going to be my favorite coaster of the trip, even before I rode it. Putting that bias aside, I cannot deny how incredible this coaster is, and I just had to put it at number 1 on this list. The Beyond Vertical launch was much more intense than I was expecting it to be. So many moments of strong airtime throughout the ride, and that stall is just so damn good. The turntable halfway through the ride does hurt the pacing a little bit, but you're not bored during this part of the ride, since it is very well themed. The element that surprised me the most was the overbank turn after the top hat in the second half. The airtime that it gave was shocking, pun intended. I cannot sing this coaster's praises enough. Voltron Rivera is a statement for Mach rides, and parks around the world really need to take note and take Mach seriously with this model. The world needs more Mach Striker coasters. And there you have it, that's my top 15 favorite coasters in Europe. Were there any coasters on this list that surprised you? Or any that didn't make it onto this list that surprised you? Yes. Did not make the cut. My next video in response to this one will be the coasters from Europe that didn't quite live up to the hype for me. I'll explain all of it then, so stay tuned for that. Alright guys, I've wrapped the video up here, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next loop.